The night before Grace's wedding, I recorded a voice message for her that was 2 minutes and 14 seconds long. I listened to it 9 times. Then I deleted it. That was probably the whole story of my love for her. I always came too close to the truth, and every time, I stepped back exactly 1 step. We met in a small bookstore in Asheville. I had gone in to hide from the rain, and she was arguing with the clerk about how books with sad endings should never be placed on the bottom shelf, because people should have to reach for pain, otherwise they would never choose it. I laughed. She turned around and looked at me as if we had already met somewhere, and both of us had simply forgotten where. "Do you agree?" she asked. I wanted to say something clever. Instead, I said, "I usually take whatever is at eye level." Grace smiled. "Then life has probably been kinder to you than it has been to me." That was how everything began, the thing we would spend years calling friendship. She called me when her car broke down. She texted me when she couldn't sleep. She sent me pictures of strangely shaped clouds, dogs in sweaters, and signs with misspelled words. I knew what coffee she drank on bad days, what songs she played when she drove alone down the highway, and why she never ordered cherry pie even though she loved cherries. I knew as much about her as a person usually knows when they are loved. Except she didn't love me. At least, not that way. Grace could rest her head on my shoulder during a movie and, a minute later, tell me she had met someone named Ethan. She could take my hand while crossing the street and then ask whether I thought he would like her new dress. She did it without cruelty. That was the hardest part. She was never playing with me. She simply didn't see that every casual gesture of hers stayed inside me like a letter with no address. When she first told me Ethan made her happy, I congratulated her. I said it easily. I even smiled. Men like me have a special talent for looking calm in the exact moment something inside them is quietly falling apart. A year later, she showed me the ring. We were sitting in a park by the river. She held out her hand, and the sun caught the stone so brightly that I had to look away. "He proposed last night," she said. "I wanted you to be the first to know." The first. That word hit me harder than the ring itself. I was first in everything except the one thing that mattered. The first person she called after a bad day. The first person she trusted with her fears. The first person who knew when her smile was real and when it was only polite. But when it came to the life she wanted to build, my place was at the edge of the photograph. "Are you happy?" I asked. She nodded. "Yes. Truly happy." And I understood that I no longer had the right to suffer in a way she could notice. The wedding preparations lasted 6 months. Grace asked which playlist was better. She sent me pictures of flowers. Once, she asked me to choose between 2 versions of her vows because, as she put it, I understood words better than anyone. I read those vows in my car outside a grocery store, and every line felt like a small door closing in front of me. A week before the wedding, she asked me to come early. "I'll feel calmer if you're there, Noah." That was how she always said my name. Softly. Trustingly. In a way that made me want to be better than I was. The night before the ceremony, I couldn't sleep. Rain tapped against the window, and it felt as if Asheville was carrying us back to that bookstore. I picked up my phone and recorded the message. "Grace, I know you're marrying him tomorrow. I know he's a good man. But I have to say this once, or I'll carry it inside me for the rest of my life. I love you. I've loved you for a long time. I love you on the days when you laugh too loudly and on the days when you speak in a whisper. I love you so much that sometimes I hate myself for staying close and calling it friendship. Tomorrow I'll be there. I'll smile. I'll hug you. But tonight, at least here, where you can't hear me, I want to confess something. I always hoped that one day you would turn toward me differently." After those words, I went silent. Then I added, "And if you're happy, I'll let you go. Just know that someone loved you so carefully, he never even asked you to choose him." I listened to the message while sitting in the dark. My voice sounded older than I felt. My finger hovered over the send button. I imagined her listening to it in the morning. I imagined her face changing. I imagined the joy she had waited for her whole life suddenly cracking open with my name inside it. So I deleted the message. The next day, I came early, just as I had promised. Grace was standing in front of a mirror in a small room at the church. When I walked in, she turned toward me. In her wedding dress, she looked as if life had finally stopped arguing with her. "Well?" she asked nervously. "How do I look?" I wanted to say, "Like the woman I will remember even when I forget my own youth." But I said, "Like someone who chose happiness." She began to cry and hugged me. "Thank you, Noah." I held her carefully. Only for a few seconds. Then I was the first to let go. During the ceremony, I stood in the third row. When Ethan said his vows, Grace looked at him the way I had once dreamed she would look at me. Strangely enough, in that moment, the pain became cleaner. It stopped asking for anything. It simply stayed beside me, like an old scar that no longer bleeds but still knows when the weather is about to change. At the reception, she came over to me later in the evening. "You're quiet today," she said. "I'm just happy for you." Grace studied my face. "Are you sure?" That was when I understood, this was my last chance to tell the truth. My last real chance to break the silence between us. I looked at her ring. Then at her face. "Yes," I said. "I'm sure." She smiled and went back to her husband. And I stepped outside, where the air smelled like rain, just as it had on the day we first met. Sometimes love does not become a story shared by two people. Sometimes it remains a monologue one person rehearses for years and never once says out loud. I loved Grace enough to want to be chosen. But on the last day, I loved her even more, and I did not ask.